Hello, everyone. It's fascinating. That's the DLD spirit that so many people are still here. And we are between you and dinner, but we have one of the most fascinating topics to talk about at this time. Let me briefly introduce our panelists to you. We have Nina Zimmermann on stage, the CEO of Kununu, Europe's leading platform for employer transparency. She has a background in digital media, product development, and platform businesses, advocates for data-driven, transparent world of work. Under her leadership, Kununu uses AI pragmatically to improve quality, trust, and efficiency, such as detecting fake reviews while maintaining strict standards for data protection and anonymity. Her perspective highlights how AI can strengthen trust between employers and employees. Bharat Chandar is a postdoctoral researcher at the Stanford Digital Economy Lab and the Institute for Human-Centered AI. An economist by training, his research provides some of the most cited empirical evidence on AI's early labor market effects. His work shows that while overall employment effects are currently modest, entry-level jobs in AI-exposed occupations are already under pressure. And we have Mario Nava, who's the Director General for Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion at the European Commission, with a long career spanning financial regulation, crisis management, and structural reform. He now focuses on digitalization and AI and how they are reshaping Europe's labor markets. Mario stands for human-centered AI transition, putting upskilling and reskilling at the core of competitiveness, social inclusion, and quality jobs. And Mario also told me in our pre-discussion that he commits to keep working as long as he can cycle 100 kilometers every Saturday
morning.
Bharat, Nina, what are the early indicators? What are the major AI-driven impacts and trends on labor markets that we can already detect?
I can start with that. My colleagues and I at Stanford recently released a report where we used millions of payroll records across the United States to study what was happening with employment in jobs that are more and less exposed to AI. And what we found is that for young workers in jobs that are more exposed, so think of things such as software development, customer service, more administrative roles, secretarial roles, et cetera, in those types of jobs, we have seen a slowdown in the labor market for these entry-level workers. If we look at entry-level workers in jobs that are not very exposed to AI, so think of things like healthcare, we have not seen that slowdown. That they're pretty much growing on trend. And for more experienced workers as well, we have not seen a slowdown in employment. Now, there are a lot of things that are happening in the economy, in the US, around the world. So we don't want to claim that all of this is being driven by AI. We tested some of the most plausible alternatives to that, such as interest rate changes, remote work, education disruptions during COVID, tech overhiring. And we found that these results seem to hold up. But we don't have an experiment where we can see a world with AI and one without AI. I do think the evidence is suggesting that we might already be seeing some of these impacts, but there's more research needed here as well.
Where do you think AI will replace and where does it augment our traditional roles, Nina?
Well, you've heard a lot about it today, so it's everything where you have repetitive tasks. You've got the whole logistics industry where it's becoming all the more prevalent. Anywhere where you have repetition, automatization, those are the things where you're going to see those so-called menial tasks, the repetitive tasks being replaced by AI through efficiency. But we're seeing it in particular because we sit on so much data at Kununu. So what we're seeing in particular as a trend is that the amount of times AI and ChatGPT is being mentioned has doubled in the last 2 years. But it's being always mentioned together with efficiency and productivity, right? So and they're seeing it more in a positive light. So there's a lot of aspects which is coming in where those companies that are adopting it and moving forward with it, there's a positive signal there. However, you don't see it so much associated with job cuts. So I often wonder if that's, management resizing using AI often as an excuse rather than just replacing all of these tasks. But you'll see many roles change. It's all about embracing it.
Thank you. Mario, what's your take? Nina just told us about how in the recruiting sphere AI is changing the way people present themselves, how employers search for employees. Do you think AI will fundamentally affect the classical career model?
I think, good evening, everybody, first of all. I think AI is more about the tasks, is more about what people do than about jobs. I don't particularly believe in the argument AI will cut jobs all over or things like that. What is certainly obvious is that it will change tasks, and it will cut tasks, and it will give other tasks. And in that respect, the reply to your question is yes, of course, it will change the type of career model. Why? Because the type of career model that we have in mind, that the one that was valid, let's say, till 3 years ago or 2 years ago, was a type of career where you would accumulate knowledge over time and you would get more and more to coordinating tasks. Now, coordinating, the AI is not yet able. What the AI is super good at is basically analyzing the statistics. That's what it is. The analysis of the statistic in the sense of what we do, of what humans have done, confronted to a given problem, be it a medical problem, an engineering problem, an energy problem, whatever, what is the response, what is the success rate of response A and response B. So AI is very good in doing that. Of course, the more banal are the tasks, the more routinary they are the tasks, the more AI is strong. So that is what I think is going to change very rapidly, the type of task that each and everybody of us does.
Okay. If that's the case, what are the tasks that we should learn? What should we be prepared for? What should young professionals be trained for, Bharat?
I think there are kind of 3 things that I view as fundamental bottlenecks in AI for at least the next several years. And those 3 things are physical tasks, as you would expect. We're not at that stage yet with robotics. Number 2 is management tasks. I don't know if you all are using Claude Code now, but when you're using it, you're essentially a manager where you're delegating a set of agents to go and act on your behalf. They're going to execute the task for you. They'll report back to you, and you'll process that information and then spin up another set of agents to go work on your behalf, which is pretty much exactly what a manager does. So I would say that's number 2. And then number 3 is the social and communication skills and the networking skills. I view those 3 things as things that AI doesn't seem very capable of replacing in the near term.
Nina, do you already see an impact on the different areas of work? If you look at blue collar, white collar, pink collar, do you think the relevance of the respective roles will change, especially as AI is capable of doing these jobs differently or not at all?
Yeah, we see completely different mindsets across those industries, but it has also a lot to do with how it's communicated. So there's a lot of fear around AI disrupting everything. We heard about that today as well, about all jobs suddenly disappearing. So actually, we need to turn it around. This is my ask to the leadership community out there, is to say, what are you doing about it? How are you going around to your companies and talking about what you're doing about AI? How is it going to assist you? How is it going to replace some of your menial tasks? How am I going to reskill you? So those are the conversations that we need to have. And there is certain aspects also in the blue collar. We've talked about it very much as a white collar topic, but there's many aspects in the blue collar world where you could say you become far more efficient in how you're doing your tasks too. Not everything will go away. So I almost will appeal to everyone to sit down and start making it a topic within your companies and your industries to make sure people don't have such a fear about it.
What is your recommendation if you talk to leaders? How should they approach AI?
Well, first of all, they should have an idea of how they want to do it themselves. Otherwise, you can't really go out and talk about it. So, I mean, if you haven't figured it out yourself, that's somewhere where you need to start. And be completely transparent about it. I mean, does anyone in this room know what the world's going to look like in the next couple of years' time? No, but you're going to have an opinion. You're going to have a direction that you give your employees and say, this is at least what I believe, and this is the direction we're going to work along. And that's what I recommend to many CEOs out there, to build that opinion and to articulate it, and then, above all, communicate it.
If you look at your own daily work, how do you use it? What are the implications? What can we derive from it? What are your thoughts?
Well, I have made a conscious effort, I would say, over the past year and a half or so, to use it as much as I can for everything. And now I can't even imagine working without it. It's just made me so much more productive. And there's certain things that I used to do before that I don't really need to do now. And for example, when I'm coding something, I don't need to know the exact syntax of the programming language. I just need to be able to talk in English so that I can talk to the agent to act on my behalf. And there are a lot of these different pockets of space where I've been using AI, and it's almost the point where I can't even really imagine working without it anymore.
Mario?
I think, first of all, you need to distinguish between the workers who use AI and the workers who are used by AI. So that is a fundamental difference. The workers who use AI, I go along with what has just been said. You increase productivity, you reduce the routine task, it facilitates many things, that's fine. The workers who are used by AI, so that are subject to what is called algorithmic management, they have all sorts of different problems. And there, I think the true intellectual question is the principle of human-centric approach to AI, which is a principle that has been accepted at the G20 level, so as high as you can imagine. Where do we push that principle? I think most of the people would agree definitely at the level of human management of AI, so you are managed by an algorithm, but there must be someone who supervises that. Do you push it till the human review? I would say yes, others could disagree. What does it mean, human review? It means that if you are fired by an algorithm, you can appeal to a human person and not to another algorithm. Or if you are hired by an algorithm, you can appeal to that. So I think those who are used by AI, those that the piece of law says principally their work is determined by artificial intelligence and algorithmic management, they deserve a type of protection that the other workers do not. The other workers, those who use AI, as we were just saying here, well, then is really a little bit what you put in. You may have, say, worries about privacy. I put in too much. What happens with the data protection? You may have worries about your skills. Am I skilled enough? And that's why I think all the work that is being done both by public authorities and also by the private sector, given the tight labor market in which we are on upskilling and reskilling, makes sense, because of course the AI that we have today is not the AI of 3 years ago, and is certainly not the AI in a couple of years. There is one principle, in Europe we have it, which is that 60% of the workforce every year should be upskilled and reskilled. That means each of us getting a training course every 18, 20 months. Is that enough? Is that we should respect it? Is that too little, too much? Probably too much, certainly not. Too little, yes. So I think these are the crucial point that we should look at. And then, AI delivers results that may sound paradoxical, but that we need to exploit. Think, for example, of the medical profession. The AI is much more likely to replace tasks of doctors than tasks of nurses. The nurse that cleans the ill person may be replaced by AI or by a robot in many years' time. A doctor who faced with an issue replies giving the certain medicine or giving that particular injection or changing the blood may quickly be replaced, not the doctor himself, but the task of that may be replaced by AI. So I think these sort of effects, which are, I would say, surprising, we were saying white collar or blue collar, there are some tasks that many blue collar do and that they are not replaceable by AI.
So if we want to keep the human in the center, and if you talked a lot about upskilling, reskilling, what are we doing to make sure people use this technology and they are adapt to new roles, new functions? What should we do?
You want to go first?
Well, I actually also think that AI could be a very, very transformative technology for learning as well. I think we have never been in a world where both the inputs can be personalized. I can ask whatever I want to the AI, and the output can be personalized. Whatever it produces can be tailored to what I need. And so I think there's really an amazing opportunity here in using it for education, both at the schooling level, people who are K through 12 or university, but then even after people are in the workforce. Now, I do think there are some pitfalls that could happen. Are you just using it to do all your work, but you're not actually developing any of the critical thinking skills or the key skills that you need to actually be able to do the job effectively? Or are you using it to actually learn something new and do that in a way that is much more efficient and fast and effective than what we've seen before? So I think there's a lot of opportunity here, but it needs to be managed very well.
Of course, that comes back to your question: how do leaders use this technology? What are your recommendations for companies, for employers, how to present themselves in this market?
Well, similar as said beforehand, how do you use it yourself is one thing, is identifying the areas where you think you can really look at business growth, and not just about, I understand the efficiency and productivity topic, but I still think the conversation around AI and companies around there is not leveraged enough to talk about, what are you doing for your customers and your users and to deliver top line growth. It's often a bottom line topic more than a top line topic.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the conversations where it needs to move quicker. This is the topic of innovation and not just about efficiency and productivity. And similar to what you just said, the whole topic of education is a really tricky one, right? Just to give you an example, my son was given the task recently, he's 12 years old, to write an essay on why a dog would be good for the classroom, right? So I asked him to send me the text, and he sent me the text, and I read in there, he said it would be good for your mental health, and he named 4 or 5 different hormones that it releases. And I was like, do you actually know what you've written? Perhaps he plugged everything into ChatGPT, so the topic of course it will answer the task, but did he learn anything on the process? Of course not. And this is the thing that it became very transparent to me. If that's what the 12-year-old problem is also the same problem as the 20 or 30 or 40-year-old problem. Just because it does the task doesn't mean you've understood what it's actually done. So I think that's the biggest challenge, that we have to learn to work with all of this technology to also say, actually, it's not just doing it, but I get it. And I know how to make myself better and to make my work also better. So I think that's the biggest challenge.
Let me add maybe to this, because I had a similar recent experience. It's important to understand, you said, how do we encourage people to use it? By example, and I don't think they need much encouragement. I think everybody who works now is using ChatGPT or Copilot or whatever you want. It's important to understand, you said personalized input and personalized output, which type of output you get out. You get an output which is on average good, is never exceptional, never. I'll give you an example. Recently, I had to hire the head of the communication unit, okay? I got X number of application letters. Many I could see they were standard, and probably they have been manipulated by that. And then I got one which started with this. When I was a little girl, I wanted to be a dancer. That was magnificent. The person behind the letter was absolutely top. She got the job. And this sort of spark, understanding that if you apply to a job for accountant, you don't tell me that you want to be a dancer, but if you apply to a job for being a my communication person, I want to know that you wanted to be a dancer, because it means you know how to perform on a stage, what to do on a stage, and that. This sort of spark will never come with ChatGPT. So if you're looking for, as they say in Belgium, an employé de grand boîte, that's fine. If you're looking for the spark, if you're looking for the exceptionality, I think AI is still a lot to go.
If we move to the political level and look at the European labor market, that's where you are working, what are the core policies that we need to implement to make sure we have this European labor market for AI, we still attract top talent? What do you see in a competition is getting globalized? What are your ideas around labor market policies?
Labor market in Europe in the last 20 years is probably one of the greatest success of Europe. I mean, unemployment has gone down fundamentally. Type of workers that we thought were lost forever, like the 55 plus, are working very much. We have managed to reduce even the number of need. We used to have most countries above 10%. We now have only 2 countries above 10%. One of the 2 is Finland because of the closed border and because of the previous model. So it's very clear that labor market has improved fundamentally. Labor market is very tight. If labor market is tight, means people tend to turn. In an average career, we have passed from 1 to 2 change of work to 6 or 7. That means the transition is an issue of everybody. But that means that people move from one to another. So if you want education, ceases to be a private good and becomes a public good. That is a fundamental issue. And on that, I think artificial intelligence may help because, of course, on a 12-year-old kid, of course, doesn't help to learn, but maybe on people of a certain age who have some basis on which to help, they may become more functional. What are the big issues? The big issue is for those that, as I said, are used by AI till where you protect, so the human-centric aspect, review, management, and many others. Data protection, of course, data protection concern all of us, either those who are used and also those who use AI, on that there is no doubt, and then skills. And I repeat, the moment that education is not anymore a private good but becomes a public good, clearly skills play a phenomenal role because you know that your employees may go to somewhere else, but you know that you can take them from somewhere else. So you have an interest that not only your employees are formed, but that around there are not any more formed people. Or in other words, to be more brutal, when there was a lot of unemployment, unemployment was functioning as a filter. Now there is much less unemployment, everybody is working. So if we don't want productivity to go down, we need to make sure that everybody is well formed.
But what's your perspective from the US labor market?
Well, I agree wholeheartedly with what was just said right now. I do think for the issue of young workers, there's this issue of the public good versus the private good. I can invest a lot in training an employee, but if they can leave. And what that means is that there could certainly be a lot of space for intervention on the policy side to make sure that the incentives of the firm to train the employee are aligning with the public incentives to have a trained workforce that knows how to work on the job. And I do think that there's a lot of scope for making interventions there, whether it's on the education side or potentially, there could be an intervention via subsidies or something like that, improving the university system to make it more relevant to on-the-job work. So I think we're in the early days of understanding exactly how to pursue that, but I think this is a crucial point that he raised.
Any policy wishes?
Policy wishes. Okay, here we go. Are you ready? No, I think the most important thing, it has to be about empowering. I think we've heard a lot about that today. It's about empowering. It's about understanding also the many aspects which Europe is very fundamentally strong at is data protection. And there are many parts of it that business, obviously, there are times where it can be a bit cumbersome, but there is a fundamental interest in protecting the data, and I think that's the most important thing. But the policy interest has to be aligned to business interests. This is the bit where it has to be in place to empower businesses to try out innovation and test things out before we sometimes regulate things too quickly.
All right, I see we're running out of time. Thank you very much for your time. Thanks for the interesting panel. Thank you for staying, and have a good evening. Thank you.
Good.